The Gjallarhorn's rocket tears through Twilight Gap, a jagged scar painting the Hive's sky in ash and gold. Vanguards spectate in frozen silence, breath shallow beneath ozone and iron. Gjallarhorn's what roar was not if this war cry but strike a wreck, painting the Hive's mortal sky in ash and Gyn Fina gambit, was not to shatter the Feasel crux but to whisper through the void a plea to the ancient voice that outlived stars, a species' final confession etched in fire. What if the Gjallarhorn's roar was not a war cry but a requiem? The rocket's fuse burned with Iron Lord blood, a cipher, not a weapon. Its fire etched equations in ash, numbers that sang of balance, of debt. The Hive, cornered in Feasel's dust, had no swords left but math. Ozone stung the air, a guardian's breath hitched. Did the witness, vast and blind, hear the plea through its million eyes? The equations curled in smoke, a helix of asterisk more than chaos asterisk. Too late, the strike fell, the pale heart shattered. But the numbers, they linger red ghosts in the static, waiting. The shattered heart left numbers humming in the dark. A faction carved a rocket from stolen light, etched with sigils ripped from the traveler's corpse. They built it not to strike, but to speak a frequency tuned to the witness finality. Iron Lords burned their labs, unaware their demise was a prologue. The Hive, fractured and fervent, believed silence could be shattered with paracausal math. A weapon's glow pierced the void, equations of surrender in its wake. What use is a key when the door is a mirror? The witness answered not with words, but a scar across reality. Light and dark collided and the rocket became ash, yet its message, a whisper trapped in the witness' throat. No Leviathan, no Savathunanly being forged by answered asterisk, wise asterisk. The Hive's plea dissolved into static, a requiem for a dialogue that could never be. The numbers still hum, waiting. The rocket's true power bypassed fire and fission. Its paracausal sigils shattered the Hive's collective will, a fleeting gap where souls could breathe. This function fractured their unity, not to kill but to speak. A trajectory carved in light, a message aimed not at the traveler but the witness. The sigils served as a key, unlocking a channel through which the Hive's anguish echoed. Not a weapon but a wound laid bare. The witness, who channels the darkness silence, might hear this plea. A cosmos built on conquest and neglect, the traveler's light never asked if mercy had a shape. The witness, bound by duty not malice, might yet choose to listen. A rocket's arc became a question. Can a universe forged on annihilation remember how to weep? The Hive's static dissolved into numbers. Still humming, waiting. The forge where Kale shaped the rocket reeked of ozone and melted steel. His hands, scarred by Iron Lord crucibles, trembled as he etched glyphs no light bearer could read, a whisper, not a weapon. The Hive called it asterisk, vowling asterisk asterisk, the bone that sings asterisk, when they dragged it from the smoldering crater at Feasel Crux. They did not know Kale had encoded his death into its warhead. They did not know the numbers hummed in its core were coordinates, a frequency, a plea. The Iron Lords had called him a traitor when he abandoned their war machines. They did not see the witness in their endless skyward gaze. Kale did, a shadow behind the light. He carved the rocket's path to intersect that gaze one last time. When the siege shattered, the rocket rose not to kill but to asterisk speak asterisk. The Hive, in their hunger, mistook speech for a curse. They buried it in their crypts, chanted around it, until the guardians pried it free. A guardian once asked me, why do we carry what we cannot understand? The answer hangs in the city's breath. Every second life is a debt unpaid. Kale's rocket was no different. The guardians mounted it in the Gjallarhorn, thinking it a relic of war. They did not hear the hum. They did not see the witness wince, however briefly, as the payload arced true. The Hive still dig for it. The Iron Lords still dream of it. The city still sleeps on a grave. Fragility is not a flaw. It is the price of pause. Kale knew this. He paid it. The rocket's arc was not a question. It was a period, a sentence ended, a silence begun, and in that silence the witness counts. The numbers in the rocket's core still burn. They are not a weapon. They are a name. A name no one dares say aloud, because some truths are too heavy to carry, too bright to see. The Gjallarhorn's mouth opens again. This time it fires nothing, only echoes. Only the weight of immortal's final whisper lost but not forgotten. The pause between collapses grows thinner, always thinner. It carves a path of obsidian shards through voidfire, a sigil of the Hive Queen's last defiance, or perhaps her final plea. What stars, not a demand for mercy, the hat answer follows, a question. What stars are we becoming as we burn? A question follows, always the silence. Always the weight of becoming. The silence does not answer, it only bears witness. The Gjallarhorn's rocket was never meant to shatter the witness. Its fire traced a question, a jagged scar carved into the void. The Hive, in their dying throes, did not seek war. They sought to be seen, a fleet of inevitability. The witness shadow stretched across Sol, swallowing stars, cities burned. The traveler bled light into dust, a self-mutilation to spare what it loved. Yet in the chaos, the Hive turned their final weapon not outward but upward, toward the pale heart. Toward the thing they feared most. What does a god sound like when it pleads? The rocket's payload carried no explosives. Only a frequency, a harmonic key to the witness prison. The Hive did not know if it would work. They only knew the witness had once been human, and humans, even broken, remember how to beg. The Vanguard did not fire that rocket. The Iron Lords did not guide its path. This was a relic of the final shapes and a moment when the Hive, stripped of all else, reached for mercy. A weapon that whispered, asterisk, we are more than our hunger. Asterisk, the witness fell not to firepower, but to the weight of that whisper. A guardian strike sealed its fate, yes. But the rocket's song had already unraveled what the witness could not face, the possibility that its war was a lie. That even darkness craves absolution. The city clings to this truth now, not as a weapon, as a warning. The cosmos is not a battle of light and void. It is a question, asked in fire and silence. And every soul caught between must choose, to destroy or to listen. The vault of glass holds it, no a husk of alloy in fractured will, its paracausal sigils smoldering like dying stars. Guardians once sealed this chamber, their footprints dusted by time. The rocket's purpose was never fire, never war. It was a throat, a conduit for a voice long strangled by the witness silence. Hive cerebrates carved their desperation into its frame, a final cipher, asterisk, we are breaking, save us, asterisk, but the witness did not answer. Does not answer, only the void hums back, a dirge through fractured light. The sigils pulse faintly, as if waiting. As if the rocket's message is not over, but paused, suspended between a question and an answer. The guardians who built it, the Hive who wielded it, the witness who ignored it, all are ghosts now. Only the rocket remains, a monument to a plea that outlived its sender. What becomes of mercy when there is no audience? When the cosmos itself is the listener, and the listener has no ears, the vault's air is thick with unspoken words. The rocket's final breath hangs there, a whisper that might yet ignite, or fade. The rocket's arc was not a threat, it was a psalm, a mortal's last theorem etched in fire. What does a species etched in ash offer a god of final answers? Not defiance, not hope, a mirror. The city's fragile peace, the pause between collapses, it is the same breath that fashions the witness. A civilization that trades questions for certainty becomes a tomb. The Gjallarhorn's whisper asks, is the witness a savior or the proof of our failure? The rocket's smoke curls like a prayer unanswered. It carries no payload, only a confession. That even the witness in its infinite wisdom cannot escape the weight of what it is, a finality that starves. A truth that crumbles. The siege at Feasel Crux was never about Zivu Areth. It was a rehearsal for the end of all rehearsals. The rocket's glow fades, the witness watches, the cycle turns. What remains when the last question is silenced? What if the Gjallarhorn's rocket was not a weapon but a plea? The Hive, cornered, desperate, etched their final warning into light. The witness prisoner of its own choice heard the whisper beneath the explosion. A confession, a cry. A species' last gasp before the winnower's silence. What remains when even memory is unmade?